Good morning, Dana. Can you hear us? Dana, if you get a moment, can you do a sound check with us, please?
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Janelle. Let me just see. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, for some reason, my headset is not working here. Just a second.
Okay.
So could you try that again?
Sure. We hear you loud and clear, Paul.
I wonder if okay, can you try one more time?
Sure. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear us well?
Yeah, for some reason, I'm not getting it on my headset, but as long as I'm not creating an echo, I think and you can hear me, that's fine.
Yes, you actually sound very clear for us, so no problem.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Good morning, Commissioner Foster.
Good morning, Janelle.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner Wilson.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for the wave, Commissioner Wilson. Coming, look good.
As always, but you notice how I took myself off immediately.
Commissioner Hobble, can you give us a sound check, please?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Murphy, can you give us a sound check, please?
Good morning, Janelle.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner Eskridge.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Alan. Can you give us a sound check, please? Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Janelle.
There we go. Thank you.
Morning, Janelle. This is Commissioner Meyer. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Good morning.
Morning. I just wanted to let you know I'll be on phone only. I don't have video right now at my home office.
Okay, thank you for letting us know.
Definitely.
Good morning, Marty. Can we do a sound check with you this morning?
Good morning. How's that sounding?
Perfect. Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Jacobs, I see you're also on the event that you speak today. Can I have you just test your mic with us, please?
Yes, good morning. Does it sound okay?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 8 o'clock. I will call our meeting for the Thursday, the 25th of March to order. Let's see. Welcome guests, Janelle. First of all, welcome to all of our guests. I think we have Mr. Jacobs who may speak later. Virtual meeting guidance. Janelle, you want to go through the guidance, please?
Of course. Good morning, commissioners, members of the public and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for everyone to please follow. Number 1, please ensure your mic is muted unless you are speaking. Number 2, please state your name before speaking. 3, in general, please have your camera on if possible. If you are speaking, you may turn your camera off if you're experiencing technological challenges. This includes staff, please. And 4, as a reminder, the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be, and the meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube. So those are the decorum rules for all. Let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. Let's see, announcements. Michael, do you have any announcements? And then we have a proclamation and 2 welcomes.
President Hubble, I do not have any announcements this morning.
Okay, then you want to just move into the proclamation for Debbie?
I will. I'm very excited to announce Debbie Iglesias' retirement from the district with over 30 years of service to the district. And most of you know Debbie. She's a great ambassador for the district in her role as the first point of contact to visitors and members of the public and those who enter district facilities, and really sets the tone for people's experience at the district. And those of you who have been in contact with her, the warmness she brings to her job and her sense of responsiveness and duty is something that you get as a first impression when you meet her and work with her. She's served many important roles through her career, including being the records custodian. And for an organization like ours, records are critical, and having records that are easy to access are critical. And it's one of those jobs that you don't think much about until you need an important record. And she's been working, tirelessly on the retention of those documents and a retention schedule. She's been here for 5 plant additions, and which are major public infrastructure projects. We're in the liquid processing phase or addition right now, but equally we've had other major additions to the plant through the years in our evolution. She produced the district's annual report for many years, which is a regulatory requirement that we have, and has co-authored our internal newsletter for many years. It used to be called the Metro Interceptor. She's worked on many events, open houses, retiree events. When we host Central States Water Environment Association meetings, she has taken on a major role to help coordinate and welcome other utilities here in Madison, and was part of an education team that won a National Public Education Award from the Association of Metropolitan Sewerage Agencies in the 90s. She's also done things in the community on her own time to advance education of the district and what we do, particularly with young people. And she's conducted tours. She's developed her own workshops with young people on understanding wastewater, and it's just because of her passion. It goes beyond the 7 to 3:30 or 9 to 5 and goes into her efforts throughout her day, evening, and weekends. And so that she's going to be really missed here at the district for what she's brought to the district, and I'd like to congratulate her in her well-deserved retirement.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Debbie, for all your service. I don't know if she's on or not. For your years of service, always a pleasure working with her when I had to go in to sign stuff or for other meetings and things like that. So yeah, I didn't realize her involvement with the tours and the young. That's good. Get them to know what the resources are important. Okay, thank you, Michael. And then Janelle, are you going to introduce Jessica Spiegel?
Yes, good morning, commissioners. So sorry, I have a couple buttons I had to get ready here. I am pleased to announce Jessica Spiegel to you all and to introduce her. I have my little sheet here because I didn't want to forget any great things about Jessica. So first of all, I'm Janelle Werner. I'm the executive coordinator, and I'm also the supervisor of the resource team here at the district. So while we are welcoming Jessica, we are also losing Debbie, who's been with us for so many years. And it's bittersweet, but something that's helping make the transition a little smoother for us is that Jessica has been with us for 2 years already as a part-time person on the resource team. She has been wonderful. So we're very pleased that Jessica has accepted the full-time role, transitioning from part-time. So let me tell you a little bit about Jessica. So she's been with us 2 years in July, and she graduated, and I'll probably say this wrong, from Hiram College in Ohio with a bachelor's of art in English. She has a wide range of administrative experience, and her knowledge and skill set have already been put to good use. So Jess has been leading up our annual report process here in recent years. She has been taking a leadership role in a very large scale photo management project, which spans thousands and thousands of photos going back all the way to the creation of the district. So she's figuring out how to apply metadata to photos and making sure all those important assets are preserved for us. And that also we are able to use them in marketing and communication pieces. So that is a very large effort that she has been leading, as well as she has been at the district for this entire time during COVID, which is an interesting thing to say. But while many of us are at home, her and Debbie have been job sharing this entire time to keep boots on the ground support for all the staff that are at the district. So that is something I like to mention, very noteworthy. She handles the multiple hundreds of requests that come in from staff, and even down to picking up the switchboard and helping people outside the fences with questions they have. She's been very good and reliable on all these things. Jessica has decided to join the district almost 2 years ago, and she was drawn to us by our mission statement and the essential work we do. She, in her free time, enjoys cooking, listening to music, making playlists for herself. She likes watching her 12-year-old Thea in gymnastics, and she spends time with her husband, Brian, and their Beagle mixed dog, Juniper, which I know she walks regularly. And she's just been an absolute joy to have on the team. She is very multifaceted and just has been a perfect addition. So we're so very pleased to have her on full time and to officially welcome her to all of you. So please help me welcome Jessica officially to the district as a full-time employee. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Welcome, Jessica, as now a full-time, moving up from part-time. That's nice to see internal promotions like that. Okay, and then Carol Milkey, you're going to introduce Jessica Schwark.
Hello, I'm Carol Melke. I'm the lab manager at the district, and it is my pleasure to introduce Jessica Schwark. She will be taking on the role as a chemist 1 in the lab. She is a graduate of the University of Oshkosh with a degree in chemistry and a minor in physics. Jessica has over 14 years of analytical chemistry experience in the food and supplemental nutrition industry. Here at the district, she will begin working in the general lab area to understand what it is that we do. But as time goes on, she will cross-train in the other areas of the lab. such as the metals area or the chromatography area. We really feel she'll be a great asset to the lab. When she's not at the district, she enjoys her husband and her 2 sons, gardening and quilting. So please help me welcome Jessica to the district.
Okay, welcome, Jessica. Enjoy your employment with the district. Chemistry, the chemical section is always very busy and doing sampling and testing and everything like that. Okay, appearances by the public. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak? I think, and Mr. Jacobs is here. What we'll do when we get to that item is we'll have him give any statement that he wishes, and then we'll move back to commission discussion. But if there's anybody that has any appearances that are non-agenda items, do we wish anybody to speak? And my participant list went away just a second. Okay, I don't see hands up. So we'll move on to the consent calendar, where we have the approval of minutes from March 11th, the reapproval of a sewer extension for Crescent Crossing in Fitchburg, a review and approval of 1,000 Oaks Phase 2, City of Madison, an expedited boundary agreement in Middleton, a review of proposal and award of contract for sewer cleaning and multi-sensor inspection, pump station 16 Force Main, and then review of proposals and award of contract, pump station 4 rehabilitation design services. We have any questions on anything before we get a motion? Okay, I didn't see any hands up. Oh, I see Sarah. I just saw it now. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question on a couple of the items. I'm wondering if maybe we could just pull off the consent agenda items E and F.
Okay, so we have a C and F. So we'll
I
just
could move approval
Okay.
of the consent calendar items A through D.
A through
Oh.
D. Okay.
It's Wilson. I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Escher, second by Commissioner Wilson to approve items A through D on the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so that takes us to item E on the consent calendar, and then we'll do item F. Sarah, did you want to?
Great. Yeah, my questions are related to the procurement process. And in some ways, this helps set us up, I think, for topic 4A as well. I appreciated in the packet that 4A had a bit of an overview about our procurement procedures, but I just wondered if the appropriate staff, I would defer to you, Michael, on you, or if someone else from staff could just quickly walk through for us when we should expect to see the review of bids, when bid amounts are public as part of items, and when and if we are required to take the lowest bidder on certain items. I just noticed that with both, I think it's items E and F, we didn't see the bids in the packet unless I missed them. And so I was curious where the bids fell in the range of bids, the ones that staff's recommending. I would preface this with saying I have no problem with staff choosing a bidder that's not necessarily the lowest bid. I know there are certainly good justifications for that many times. I just wondered from a policy perspective if we could be reminded of what those policy considerations are as to when we see the bids, when we have to take that lowest bidder, and when we have the flexibility to use other criteria in determining which bid is recommended to us and which we should accept.
Those are good questions, Commissioner Eskridge. It may help at some point to maybe review those requirements that are in the procurement code ahead or at a separate item. But there are different types of procurement awards that we make. There are those that are based on low bid, that are usually infrastructure or direct service or direct products that we get. And then there are proposals that we receive for items that require a proposal of what they're going to provide based on a specification, and those go through an evaluation of the proposals, which are not just competitive low bid. And when we distinguish between the two, usually professional services, for example, are proposal related, and others, most equipment and other things are related on low bid that meet a defined specification. So if it's a product, it's a defined specification, it's a low bid that meets the specification, versus professional services, which are based on qualification. And what we try to do in the commission agenda reports is outline what those criteria are that we use that are provided in advance in requests for proposals, and how we will be evaluating those proposals, which is usually based on experience, past work, members of the team, the proposals they make. And many times there's a wide range of proposals, from minimally meeting the RFP to going way beyond, and sometimes are unaffordable. And so that is really the distinction for us in the procurement code between tangible things that we can spec and professional services. Does that get at your question?
It absolutely does. Thank you for that, Michael. So with these particular items, I can ask right now about item, I know we're on item E, but same question for item F. Just wondering in terms of the span of bids, financially, where the bidder fell within that range, and if we felt, I know we felt it was within our budgetary authority, but just any sense of where that bid fell. And also, as part of that, Michael, is it correct then in your overview to assume that we will get the bid amounts become public when we are required to take that low bidder amount?
Right.
And that's when we see them, as opposed to this car, we didn't see the bid amount.
In 3F, you're referring to 3F. And yet that is because the cost is one of about 7 criteria that we use. And we have gone back and forth on whether we provide those cost proposals in the packet of materials, and this one I didn't have it on. But what we may want to do is provide more of the whole evaluation, because one of the issues is if we focus just on the costs without looking at the other criteria, it may look like we're getting a great deal for the lowest cost bid, but many times there's gaps in what's involved in that proposal. So we don't like to focus completely on the cost.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So essentially, when you have proposals, they're more professional services or things that are a broader category. You give out a broad base of what work you expect, and then they answer by saying, this is what we intend to do. So it's not a thing like a piece of equipment or much less a construction project, which are required to bid, where everybody gets the full plans and specs, and then they bid on the actual piece on the actual specifications. Okay, anybody else have any questions on E and F?
I don't have a question, but I'm just a suggestion.
Okay.
And I understand the desire to not just provide the cost information for each of the bidders, but I was going to suggest that at least the reports could include the firms that submitted a bid. That was my.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Say the following firms, and out of those firms, this one was selected for the following reasons. Yeah. Okay.
So maybe it's a question. Sorry, Tom, but one of my questions didn't get answered. Maybe it's a question for Eric about this particular proposal for the cleaning and inspection, but just wondering what the financial consideration was, where this fit in the range of bids that we received, and clearly it was acceptable, but I didn't see it. I didn't see finances noted in the key considerations for this one in particular with the staff recommendation.
Michael, this is Bruce and Eric. I'll answer both. I'll try to answer both of them, Sarah.
Thanks, Bruce.
I'm involved tangentially in both of them. For the first one, the cleaning, the multi-level inspection, Station 16 force main, we had three proposals for that. Michael's, Vortex, and then National Power Routing. Michael's was the lowest at 60,000, and Vortex was the second low at 67,000. National Power Routing was way out of bounds. They were at over 200,000. Vortex had the best proposal as far as deliverables and how they were to conduct the work. It is really in their wheelhouse to do this type of work. It is specialized work in this inspection, so that's why they were chosen. So the low was 60,000. The second low was 67 with Vortex. The second one, item 3F, I believe it is, Station 4, we received 6 proposals, I believe, on that. There was one that was lower. I forget the name of the company, but their proposal was really incomplete. It didn't have enough hours. They didn't have the experience. It goes back to what Michael has said, that we're really looking to do this on a qualification based, and price is just one small part of it. Then there was a group, I believe the Applied Tech and Power Systems was second. Oh, there was a group of them right around $240,000. I believe they were second. And then there was some that were over 300,000 that were, really too much. So again, there were 6 on that one, and it was the second low one for those reasons. Again, qualification based.
That's great, Bruce. That was exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Grant, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I think the questions on this have been answered. Michael, you mentioned maybe this would be a good topic for a future meeting, just sort of, a little bit more deeper dive. I think it would be worthwhile. And, I think something like we just heard, even if that were, as part of it, I think it's just in the best interest of everybody to put, here's who we got bids from, here were the numbers, and what the rationale was for the one selected, or perhaps even in addition, rationale for not selecting lowest bidders. I think it's just really helpful. Obviously, there are a lot of reasons why that might happen, but just having even just a short narrative in the car, I think would just help provide clarity for everybody. So probably a good thing to just revisit, and if we need to shift some language in our policy, probably while doing.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Anyone else? Okay, do we have a motion to approve items E and F?
I'll move adoption of items 3E and F on the
Okay.
consent calendar.
Motion by Commissioner Eskridge. Do we have a second?
I'll second Commissioner Swanson.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Eskridge, second by Commissioner Swanson to approve 3E and 3F proposals. E relating to award of contract for sewer cleaning and multi-sensor inspection. And F is a proposal for award of contract for pump station 4 rehabilitation design services. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None, motion carries. Okay. That takes us to item for 4. We'll move to 4A, review of bids and approve purchase of inductively coupled plasma optical emission spectrophotometer. Mr. Jacobs, did you have some comments? And then we'll move to commission discussion.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. Good morning. My name is Tom Jacobs. I'm a principal account specialist and chemist for PerkinElmer. I appreciate the opportunity to speak again to the board, as I did not too long ago, a few weeks ago. Just in reminder, I've worked with over 100 bids, and I think what I'm looking at here, I've scratched my head and sharing it with my team and my corporation. It looks like a technicality in my mind, yet I understand the integrity of the board and of the Madison to try and honor the bid. But as I pointed out, and in an email even yesterday to some individuals, It almost appears to be purposeful because an attempt to maybe exclude PerkinElmer. I'm certain that was not the case, but again, the wording in the bid suggested you had to use the instrument that you ran samples on. In early November 2020, we ran samples that meet the needs of what you require by government regulations. The bid was not out yet. When the bid came out, it required something called a simultaneous instrument, which is also an instrument we have, but we did not run it on the simultaneous because it really wasn't required, which is only a dimension of speed. Having speed in the long term, since you have this PerkinElmer instrument 10 to 20 years, could be an advantage. So while I did not personally send a note to check, which is very common in over 100 bids I've had, I just elected to give you the faster, better instrument to do that, and then was then tossed out on this technicality since I didn't bid the instrument that we ran the samples on. Both would give the same results. Has nothing to do with the results. If I would have bid the instrument that I ran the samples on, then the board or the approvers here today would have been able to say you didn't bid a simultaneous, or the competitors could have said, oh, this company, somebody else could have come to the board and said, this is not a simultaneous instrument. It's a hybrid simultaneous instrument. So technically you could maybe call it that, but in theory it's not. And then just being very transparent. So I wanted to share this particular statement for you to understand that, in my opinion, this is a very technical detail that was utilized in the bid, and maybe it was just poorly written, which is not uncommon. You're not alone in this approach with bids. They're very difficult to write, particularly for technical specifications. But in our opinion, in my opinion, to throw out our bid $9,076 less for really we are the leader in this space, well marketed and well known. And we were aggressive to win this bid because we have a lot of business in Madison and know that this is important to the district. So we were aggressive with that. So it would be, our opinion, folly and very unusual to exclude it based on a sentence in the bid instead of the core check boxes, which usually trumps everything. And the last thing I just like to state is I did check and had conversations about this, that I understand there's many criteria in a bid, but I was advised and told that, of course, price trumps and is the majority as long as everything else can be met. So having said that, I just wanted to share that background and thought in a little bit more detail for the commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Okay, we'll continue with item 4A. So do we have any comments? I just wanted to make a couple things here, that the commission's interest really is in whether or not staff follow the proper procurement protocols. And the purpose of the specifications to ensure a level playing field for all bidders on the like equipment. In preparing the specifications, we leave that level of activity to staff, and then we trust their judgment and the review process that they go through. So I see, Beth, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. It's my understanding that the competitor's instrument, at the end of the day, better met the needs of the lab. And I think it's my understanding that that was a deciding factor in making that decision. And so I think that I have to give the lab that kind of support and agree that, we need to go with the instrument that best meets the needs within the budget that's provided.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Anyone else? Grant.
Thank you. I guess maybe could we just hear from staff, is that a true assessment? I feel like there's two different questions that it's not clear to me quite yet. Is the selection, it seems clear that it was consistent with our policy, that it all makes sense. I think what we're hearing from Mr. Jacobs is that, well, let me start. I guess my real question is, if we were to do the bid anew, knowing what we know now, is it a correct assertion from Mr. Jacobs that use of a simultaneous or a hybrid equipment equally or even better meets the needs as put out by the district, or is that not, or does the lab believe that the specifications as went out and the equipment that was selected actually does perform better and meets the needs better, sort of regardless of price? I guess I'm still not clear on that fact. Maybe
Marty or Carol, can you answer?
Yeah,
that
I
question?
can jump in. So to answer your question, Commissioner Foster, specifications that we put out were exactly what we wanted to meet our needs. And so the simultaneous acquisition is just one of many specifications, and we chose simultaneous acquisition for a reason. And so that's the answer.
And did you consider hybrid and decided not to open that up, or was it a more of an omission? I guess is the question. Or does the hybrid equally meet the requirements? And so it was just, it said it wasn't included as an option and considered, but or is it that simultaneous is actually more preferred than the hybrid?
So simultaneous was more preferred. I mean, as part of our due diligence, we did look at all the different available types of instruments, and we decided that simultaneous is what we wanted, not hybrid. And so that's why we wrote the spec for simultaneous.
Great, thank you. That really helps a lot.
Okay, thank you, Marty and Grant. Mary, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Swanson. I noticed in the background materials that it says that apart from the bid specification issue, Perkin-Elmer did not perform as well as other bids around detection level and accuracy. And I'm wondering if maybe Marty could speak to that a little bit more, and how did that weigh in how heavily did that weigh in the decision process?
So detection level and accuracy are some other factors that we were part of the evaluation. And so obviously getting the samples and analyzing was one way for us to look at accuracy comparing to our results and making sure that we made our permit standards. And then also we could do the same with detection levels. So those were just a few other criteria that were very important to the district to make sure we met our needs for what we needed to accomplish. And so that's what those were.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands up at the moment. Okay.
Thomas, could I speak for a second?
Well, just make it quick. We're not here to debate. We're just here to get to.
No, I'm not here to debate at all. I just wanted to bring 2 points to Marty's attention. One, it just strengthened the point that we did bid on the simultaneous, which is what you wanted. So that was the correct bid. And the initial was we were thrown out because we didn't bid what the samples were run on. So we bid correctly based on what you required on the simultaneous instrument. I just was curious to know a little bit more when you're saying we didn't run as well that Ms. Swanson brought up. That is correct. I would like to understand that detail, because I know we met the criteria of the EPA and government protocols. I don't know, Marty, if you have that detail here, maybe that's out of line to ask, but that may be splitting hairs. Why we didn't perform as well. It's very unusual. We have the largest placement in municipal and government in the United States.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Marty, do you have anything else you wish to add?
I'll just add, as anybody can request through open records, any types of evaluation materials as part of the bid process. Obviously, we didn't put it in the car or the packet, our evaluation materials, but as we're a public entity, and that's all public records. So,
okay, thank you, Marty.
Obtaining.
Marty, are you cutting out? Your screen froze on my end. Okay, do we have a motion on? Oh shoot, my screen.
This is Commissioner Eskridge. I'll move adoption of the staff recommendation for topic 4A.
Okay, so a motion by Commissioner Eskridge to approve the bids and approve the purchase of the item in 4A. Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Bookland. I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Eskridge, second by Commissioner Bookland. Any other further discussion? Seeing no hands and hearing no one, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 4B, authorizing the creation of a full-time equivalent position of accountant in the 2021 budget. Dana Burmeister, you're going to lead this.
You're on mute, Dana.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, Commissioner. I'm the budget manager for the district, and I'll be presenting on the request to approve a new full-time accountant position in 2021. So this position would be an accountant 1 in pay. So assuming the mid-range of that pay grade, it would be $65,000 per year plus benefits. So around $91,000 a year. Because this position would be hired at the midpoint of the year, we expect May or June. The cost for this budget year would be $53,000. And we do have adequate funds to cover it in the 2021 budget. For a couple of reasons, we would use contracted services that we have already budgeted for this year. And we also anticipate that we have some other cost savings in salary and benefits. So we are confident we can cover the $53,000 for this year if it was approved. So there are 3 key reasons that we're requesting this in the middle of a budget year. The first is better oversight of our insurance management. So as you probably know, our health, safety, and security leader, Casey, resigned and will be, I believe her last date is in 2 weeks. And the insurance management function was part of that position. So we've done some review of that at the district and determined that it would be better placed in accounting. That's usually where it is at an organization, and we think that provides better alignment and oversight of the insurance program. That work is 30% of a full-time position. So that will be moving to accounting, and we are excited about that, but that provides some capacity issues for us without more resources currently. The second reason is that we have a wonderful accounting team, a small but wonderful, hardworking accounting team, and we do a good job at providing day-to-day services. So payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and of course, budget development and management. We do a good job, but we're spread a little thin as when anything extra comes to our team. We also don't have a lot of redundancy. So when we have staff turnover or unexpected leave or long-term absences, we rely on contracted services to fill that void. Contracted services are a good option for us in that we can get someone in quickly, but they cost the district about 30% more than a full-time position would cost the district. In addition, we've tracked this, and it takes about 150 hours of training to get someone on board and in the accounting world at the district. So that's time taken away from day-to-day tasks when we have turnover or when we bring a contractor on. So greater redundancy for the accounting section is a need so that we can keep delivering critical services, but also work on new projects. So we have an exciting update for you about the accounting section. In the last few months, we've worked on the first ever strategic plan for accounting and procurement. The team is really excited about that, and we've identified goals from 6 months to 5 years out. These include modernization of accounts payable. That's a very manual, paper-based process at the district. We have an opportunity to automate that and move it into on-base. As you're familiar with the agenda management process now, we would be using the same tool for that. We also need to upgrade some of our legacy systems. Our budget and financial systems are 20 years old, and we're at a critical point where we need to focus resources on upgrading those, as well as numerous other process improvements that we would love to make to payroll and accounts receivable. So these projects will take a significant amount of staff time to work on the projects, and in addition to their day-to-day core work functions. So this position would help us move some of those day-to-day transactions to the new accountant position, and let some of our more senior staff, especially our lead accountant, Sipiwe Nkosi, work on these modernization projects with me. So in short, I'm going to be frank with you, our accounting team, dedicated, hardworking, but we're not modernized, and we're inefficient because of that. And so we really need to focus on those efforts in the next 1 to 5 years, as well as take on the insurance management function and provide better oversight of that. And of course, create redundancy for the team. So those are the key reasons behind the request for the creation of a new accountant position. I would love to answer questions that you have.
Okay, Mary, you want to go? Commissioner Swanson.
Sorry, yeah, thanks. Just a really small editorial almost question, and that is in the resolution, the last whereas, it says adequate funds exist to support the new position in 2020, and I'm wondering if that would be 2021 or 2022. Just wondering about that. It looks like maybe a typo.
That should be 2021.
Thank you.
And that's a good point, because we would have to put this in the budget for 2022 to sustain it.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? I just, a little irony here, when I was at work in Fitchburg, and we would, if anybody tried to do this, they always talked about, or even during a budget year, when you create a position as part-time through the year, they always talked about structural deficits. And the accounting people are always the ones who are against the structural deficits. So
Muted yourself, Tom.
sorry. I'm sorry, I thought I had done that. The cursor goes back over the mute, takes it off. Okay. Anyway, you were creating what when I used to work was called a structural deficit for 2022, because we're creating a position halfway through. But the reason I understand the need for the position is because we have the need for modernization, but also that kind of ties in with the person that's resigning from the district and the safety position. So my question is, how has that adjusted the safety position that you mentioned, their job description, and has that affected their ranking and pay or anything? I don't know how much the insurance, was that like 20% of their position work, 30%, 10%? Can you answer that?
I will try to answer that, but if our HR manager is in the meeting also, he could probably give you more details on that. So it was about 20 to 25% of the current position. We think to provide better oversight, it should be about 30%. And yes, it's been taken out of the current safety leader position. I don't know if Mike.
Yep, maybe I'll jump in here. Maybe I can move up at a higher level, and the commission knows that we've been going through a transition of retired staff in the last year with the budget manager retiring last year. And a couple of things that we've learned that are really important is with insurance and dealing with risk management, that the district has never dealt with claims. If there was an accident and a car hit one of our fences in the middle of the night, the way we handled it was we just fixed the fence, and we never went after a claim against the person who created that damage. And when Casey was hired as our safety manager, or as our safety coordinator, she had expertise in claims management, and she just voluntarily took that work on. And we recovered lots of funds. Matter of fact, the vehicle that we totaled 2 months ago, it was her efforts, a lot of effort, to get the insurance to fully pay for the replacement of that vehicle. And so this emerging work effort was never identified, and the problem for us was that the safety work, the safety training, the safety development work is put on the back burner so claims work could be done. And since one of our priorities is safety, we felt that we needed to find a way to resource the claims management piece, and that's where that 30% piece is. The other piece is in modernization, and when we hired Dana as our budget manager, we hired her for her skills in process improvement. And in the past, the budget manager served as an accountant and did transactional work. And what we're asking Dana to do is to manage the program and to improve it. And that requires accounting work. The redundancy that was there with the budget manager in the past, the budget manager would do all the payroll and other things. And we just can't afford to do that anymore. Our systems are so out of date that we need to start pressing forward on that. And so bringing these pieces together, we felt it was critical to move this forward now, particularly where we're going to be experiencing 2 extended leave situations with 2 of our accountants, and we'll be contracting the work out anyway at a much higher price. So we felt if we could establish the position now, that would remove the need to continually retrain and wait to the 2022 budget. So that's an overview of kind of our thinking of what Dana was saying.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And I think this probably ties in with that software discussion that we had a while back on the types of software to integrate all of the different accounting and different, I think it was the purchasing, the accounting, and all of that together into one type of system. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, I don't see anybody. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, it's Wilson. I'll make a motion that we approve the request here with a change to the authorizing resolution to change that one whereas clause to 2021.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by
Commissioner Clark.
second by Commissioner Clark. Okay, One question before we move on, is this one of those items that requires a 3/4 vote?
It does not. We're not amending the financial
Okay,
portion of the budget. It's just authorizing the FTE.
okay, because there's existing money. We don't need the, okay, just I wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Clark to approve the full-time equivalent position in accounting for 2021. Any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. That takes us to item 4C, a study session. Staff-led strategies plan review with commission on district performance. Sarah, it has you leading this.
Remind me, Michael.
I will, here's what the task committee has asked me to give to serve this up for the task committee. And so I'm going to do that. And here. Okay.
Apologies. While Michael's prepping, I can just say, I think I was just supposed to intro that this is part of our performance review process. And so in part of our delineation between CED performance, organizational performance, and commission performance evaluation, we wanted to make sure that we were putting into context for our organizational performance assessment, basically, how are we achieving on and reviewing our strategic plan. So this is the first time we're doing this. We didn't expect Michael to have a whole review for us of how we're performing on the strategic plan yet, but that's the future direction that we'd like to move in, is being able to evaluate against our strategic plan as the overarching guiding document for us.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Eskridge. And maybe just to orient ourselves to the strategic plan before we engage in the discussion on how the commission plugs in, I thought I'd just give a really quick overview on the district strategic plan and really what it is and how it was developed. I think it's important for the commission to understand a little bit of how we got to where we are with the strategic plan and how it's organized. And then the task committee proposal, they've been working on this question of how does the commission wish to monitor progress on the district's strategic direction within the context of the CED review process. And that will be where the discussion will pick up after my short overview. And you'll notice the word strategic direction. And what's important for the commission is that it is the commission that works to develop the direction of where the district is headed, and that the strategic plan is just another document that supports and identifies the projects and priorities to support that strategic direction over time. So you'll hear me use the word sometimes strategic direction versus strategic plan, and that is really the difference. What a strategic plan is that it is focusing on a future state, and it is about, unlike other plans which focus on doing things that we already know how to do, such as a facilities plan or a capital improvement plan, the strategic plan is focused on adaptation, or how do we adjust how we do work to achieve our outcomes and mission over time. So it's a very future-facing document. It's anticipating needs and developing a plan to adapt the organization to it. It also identifies the needs of an evolving workforce and foundational work, and builds in work and projects that support strengthening our core work or our foundational work. And this plan is also experimental and iterative. And this particular strategic plan before you, we're changing it all the time. as I mentioned in my State of the District report 2 weeks ago, we worked with the ELC, the executive team, on refining the goal statement under one of the pillars, and we added that to the plan. We didn't wait for a revision process 2 years from now, which keeps the progress, keeps the plan relevant all the time. The journey started in 2012. I'm on my 10-year anniversary with the district. I just completed my 10 years, and the first thing I did when I became the chief engineer the only way I could lead the district forward is if employees would join me in that effort. And I put together an employee planning committee to help plan the development of a strategic plan. And that employee committee developed a process, and then we engaged the entire organization on reconfirming and refining our mission and developing a vision for what we strived to achieve and some themes. And as you may have, and those themes are somewhat relevant today. It was, how do we educate the public? Questions around affordability and dealing with climate change and extreme weather conditions were some of the themes that were developed in 2012, and then began to develop the strategic plan. And then we came back in 2015 with roundtables to further refine work. How are things going? Were things around workload and other things came up? The E-team developed the pillars to try to organize the projects in 2016. And then the commission developed outcomes in 2018, which outlined what does success look like. And I report to you now annually as part of the CED review process, the report that reports on how staff is delivering on those outcomes. And then, of course, the commission worked on ideals in 2019 as part of your own strategic planning. And this photograph may refresh your memory on our prioritization process of getting to those three ideals that we use to guide all of our work today. Here is the departments when it's all rolls up is the district strategic direction. It's our mission, it's our vision, and it's our ideals. That's the pointy end of our strategic plan. And these are the 5 pillars that we've developed that support delivering them. It's an organizing principle that we as staff have used to manage the various projects that come in, and how are they moving forward with these. We have a statement and a goal for each of those. The strategic plan itself and how it's organized it's actually a fairly innovative approach, in that not all ideas are created equally. An idea starts out as something that will move us towards our vision and better achieve our mission, and over time we clarify what that idea is, then we develop a strategy around it, and that's where the work starts, is after the learning phase. We go to developing strategies around who is involved in the organization, what partners do we need, what resources is it going to take, what policies will we need from the commission. Those are identified, and then we move forward with actually implementing those priorities, and then they eventually become foundational work of it's just how we do business in the future. And a really good example of an idea that went through this phase of strategic planning is struvite. And you know very well that struvite it clogs our pipes, and it makes operation of our treatment plant very expensive and less reliable. And it was through staff in the learning phase that said, well, how are we going to deal with struvite? And then we learned through the learning phase that there were several different processes out there. We went to the developing stage here of strategy of figuring out how are we going to do that, putting out an RFP We looked at various vendors that provided struvite removal, selected Ostera to do that work, and then it became a priority, and we implemented it when the commission approved Ostera struvite harvesting. And now it's a part of our core work. We added an operator back in 2013 to help us operate the struvite facilities, and now it's actually struvite harvesting is part of our core work. So that's how the strategic planning process takes something high level and moves it up. And then here is the strategic plan itself. With all the projects populated in the plan. Where do all the projects come from? The regulatory drivers. They come from the executive team on what are things we need to do to achieve the commission's outcomes, or changes or adaptations we need to fulfill our mission over time. And they also come from employees through various processes to build organizational capacity. And here is a blue dot chart. I'm quite fond of this method of engaging employees. There are employee surveys that are used, but we use this this blue dot survey in one of our past employee surveys, asking on these two axes, if you were to have one sticky dot and you had to put it somewhere, how the organization is doing on the human element in terms of collaboration, open communication, employee confidence to make decisions on a scale of 1 to 5, and then how is the organization doing from a bottom line standpoint on productivity, our financial, technical, do you have the tools you need? You put your dot on this matrix to figure out how the organization is doing. And that's all fine and good. So you can see here where the organization was when we did the survey in about 2015, about a 2.5 and 3. But what's more important is a second question, and that is how will you make this a 5-5 for you? And that's where the ideas come up of we need to do more of this, or we need to enhance this. And those were the types of ideas that get incorporated into the strategic plan from employees. So that's just one tool that we use. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to the task committee and Commissioner Eskridge on the work that the task committee has been doing around how to best monitor progress on the strategic plan. And I will stop here and turn it over to the committee.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Sarah.
Great. I wondered, Commissioner Foster, you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to chime in some context setting here first?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of further highlight for the commission that kind of where this work came from and why we recommended that we have this review kind of at this moment in time. And so I think, as Sarah has mentioned in previous updates, part of our work this year, but started in even last year's work, is really, I think, understanding that there really is a difference between CED performance and district performance. And then this year, we also really recognize that we need to be looking more clearly at commission performance as well. So that's something we can talk more about in the future. And so I think from our perspective, review of the strategic plan and ensuring that we have the level of detail, sort of definition, and then sort of clear out expected outcomes would be really important to kind of fully monitor district performance. So I think the subgroup has recognized that there are areas where I think we have very clear defined outcomes, expected outcomes, and ways to measure that and to monitor it. And there are other areas identified in the strategic plan that maybe we're lacking some of that definition. So really the goal with this is to, today is really just sort of reviewing it, making sure the commission, remembers the strategic plan. I think having at least a high level agreement that we still think this largely represents, priorities, et cetera, maybe having a conversation around, how often do we want to have a more in-depth review of this? and then probably focusing some of that conversation around kind of what additional information or definition should we be shooting for so that everybody has the same expectations around district performance. And then the timing of it, I think we're also trying to better align CED review with this broader district review and do it all in advance of our budget discussions, because I think we really felt like, to the degree that we have identified priorities here in the strategic plan, let's ensure we're doing that review before we head into budget season, so that if there are things that are missing or things that we want to put more resources towards, we've had that discussion heading into budget season and even in advance of seeing a draft budget, so that Michael has that direction from us, that here's an area where we'd like to have some additional focus.
Thanks, Commissioner Foster. I think that was really, really helpful. The only addition that I would make, or just reinforcement of the points that you were making to our fellow commissioners, is this piece around our work as a commission and how, in some ways, we've adopted policy governance in a big picture perspective, in that we've set the guidelines for, executive limitations, and the next step of that is how do we operationalize that to some degree in our ongoing governance, and that fits, I think very well with this conversation about how and when do we review the strategic plan and our strategic priorities, and our role as responsible for monitoring progress and success of MMSD as commissioners. So in some ways, I think one of our recommendations as far as commission goals moving forward through this next year is to examine how we can take feedback from staff on operationalizing monitoring of the strategic plan at kind of a layer down from those overarching objectives, and how can we incorporate that into our regular processes and schedule for our commission meetings, so that our work reflects those priorities and monitoring those priorities. So really these alignments between the work of the district and our priorities, because what we've observed and what we all know is what gets measured gets managed, or whatever, glib saying you want to use here. But it's true, and there's a role for us as commissioners to be more active in monitoring areas of the strategic plan that perhaps have not traditionally been areas that we regularly get reporting on. And there's opportunities to do better in those areas and focus on those, because there are areas that we do really well at monitoring, and perhaps even too well at monitoring and getting into the details of things. So just an additional piece of context of where our thinking is starting to go as a commission task force. And when we come to you all with our recommendations for goals and priorities for the next year, that's where our brains are starting to move and how we're starting to think about this. And I expect our recommendations to you all will reflect those goals.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you, Sarah. Grant, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like one sort of more concrete example is kind of a very high level abstract conversation. Could we pull that chart from the strategic plan back up? Because I could maybe just, even this one is probably final. Do you have the one that also includes the influencing factors, strategies, and priorities? Yeah. That one, it's a little bit smaller, but so I think, one example to just highlight what we're talking about is, so if you look across the 5 key result areas, so if we take the environment one, for example, the goal there says increase recovery of resources while meeting permit requirements. I think that's an example where I think most would probably agree that we have very clear definition and outcomes. We get regular reports on levels of contaminants. We know when we're meeting, that we're meeting our permit requirements. We know if there's any issues that come up. And I think historically, we've like that one just seems very, very clear. We know what we're doing in that realm. If you look at the employees column in the middle, for example, that one says the goal is to improve the employee experience. And I think in our, subgroup conversations and even discussion with Michael, I think we probably all agree, like, well, what does that actually mean? Like, what is improving the employee experience look like? How would we measure that? How would we as a commission be able to know that we're on track there? And, we can get reports on perhaps some of the initiatives, but what would it look like and what would it take to have some sort of dashboard like we have with knowing where we're at with levels of pollutants or resource recovery to for us as a commission to define what does that look like, and then get and have confidence that we know where we're at. And maybe it's something like the blue dot chart that Michael showed, right? And is that something that we should be getting check-ins on a more regular basis? So that's, I think, what we're kind of describing is that if we had really better and more clear definition across the board for each of these key results areas, and that if we, sort of over the next year, we could work collaboratively with Michael and with staff to sort of get that definition laid out, we could probably do a better job as a commission at that appropriate higher level to have very high confidence that we're meeting all these measures. And because what happens today, absent that, is that the ED performance review process sort of becomes a surrogate for any ideas or concerns or anything that may have nothing to do with the CED, but that are just, it's the only space where some of those things float up. And it's very difficult. I mean, it's probably just not appropriate to use those as a CED performance, information. And also it's just really difficult to gauge sort of narrative feedback from employees, what does that actually mean? How well does that actually represent where we are as a district in any of these areas, even specifically around employee engagement, right? If we talk to 10 or 15 or 20 people and different people raise different areas of opportunity, does that mean there's actually issues, or is that always going to be the case? So I think the point is to sort of use the strategic plan, provide maybe that little extra layer of definition at the commission level that would make sense, so that we can really do that sort of oversight and prioritization work of saying, yep, we know where we're at and we know what our plans are to make progress.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grant. Beth, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think this is a really good discussion, and I really appreciate the comments that everybody has made. And I wanted to just follow up on something that Sarah had said about the role for this commission to monitor areas, in particular ones that we've monitored in the past and ones that we might want to look at and monitor more in the future. And I think it would be helpful to have maybe a chart or a table listing those areas that the commission has monitored, areas that future opportunities for the commission to monitor, and then assess, how we've done in those areas and what opportunities are there for us to look at in the future. So I think something like that might be really helpful. At least it would be for me.
Sarah, you had a answer or comment?
Just to respond to Commissioner Bookland, thank you for that comment, because we're right in line with you. The task force has already started working with staff on pulling together a list of all of the various monitoring reports that we get over the years, or that we have gotten by different names. And that's a key piece of work to provide some of that information. So just to respond quickly to say thank you for your comment, because it aligns so well with the work that we're starting to do, and we'll report back to you all on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. I think that's important to get to know what we're actually getting right now, where it fits within our 5 major areas of vision. And then we can see where we need to go from there and what we can add. One question I have, Tom, can I just say this before I get to you? Is this is a lot of extra work on your committee? Are you capable of doing that, or would you like us to kind of form another group that would work on a certain other aspect of it? I don't want to overload you guys with something that, began as the CED review, and it's getting broader, and so I don't want to overload your capacity.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Havel. Just to jump in, I won't speak too much for Grant and Ezra, but we've been working very well as a committee. And one of the reasons that we keep asking to report back to you all is I think we appreciate and understand that our work is expanding in terms of what we're doing. And so we've been doing some of these checks with you all to make sure that we're still in alignment, that you all are still empowering us to keep doing this work as a subcommittee, because we appreciate that it's getting broader in scope, and I think necessarily so. And we're working very well together in doing that. So I would say that we're happy to continue doing that role as a subcommittee. And also, if anyone else is interested in joining us for those conversations, please let me know, because there's no reason other commissioners couldn't join us for those conversations. But I do think there's value in having them happen in a small group in a task force format. It's just easier to actually roll up our sleeves and get the work done. But please consider this an invitation to our colleagues to just let me know if you'd like to join us, and I'll include you on all of those meetings that we're having on the detailed rolling up our sleeves part of the work.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure you guys weren't getting overloaded and could fill it in the time. You do seem to be doing a real good job, but I didn't want to have you get burnt out either.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Tom, did you have, I don't see your hand up right now.
That's because I put it down after you noticed that it was up, because I didn't think it needed to be up anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Just a couple of comments. Thanks very much for the work, and please continue. That's great. A couple questions, sort of / comments. One, we're not rethinking some of our policy governance work, are we? We spent a lot of time talking about what belongs to the CED and how the commission should monitor the CED and micromanaging and all those things. And I just want to make sure if we're going to relook at some of those things, well, that's fine with me. If you remember when we went through there, I might have been the one that was the most harsh on our moderator when we were going through it. So, and it could be because sometimes I get impatient with things. And as far as strategic planning and these pillars, it is odd because sometimes, and again, it's me, we try to really wordsmith things, and sometimes we try to wordsmith them in a more vague kind of way. And just as a specific, Grant was talking about the employee column and our goal. At the time we did this, there were problems with the employee experience. And if you look down at the priorities, it may answer why you see our goal the way it is. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to talk about doing some strategic planning, maybe it's something that we should be looking at these documents more often than we are. And maybe that's not a terrible idea to take a session, maybe even a special meeting where we do that. So if that's a way you're heading, I'm all for that. I don't need any more meetings, but it may make some sense to do that. And the other thing, last thing, and we're all involved in some kind of government. I just want to make sure that if there are going to be more of us that go to the group meeting, which sometimes a smaller group gets more done, just so everybody knows, or if there's a Zoom meeting that people are going to be involved in, just we got to make sure that somebody knows that, because we get to a point where we may run the gamut of a quorum of our group, so that we would need to notice it, even though we're not maybe taking any action as a commission. We would just should be make sure that we understand that, and that if there is going to be, even if it's an advisory notice, that we publish that. So that's all I got. Thank you very much. It's a great group, and that's put together, and we're going on the right path. It's nice to have somebody looking at this stuff for us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Beth, have your hand still up, or did you raise it again?
Sorry, no, I'll take it down. I forgot to take it down.
Okay, then we have Grant next, and then Ezra following Grant.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to respond quickly to Commissioner Wilson. I think he really hit on where we are headed very much. So, I mean, mentioned briefly that we identified the sort of lack of commission review. As you know, we're focused on CED review. I think everybody gets why a broader sort of district review is valuable, but I think there's pretty broad acknowledgement as well that we should be at least self-assessing as a commission, and also getting feedback from the CED and from others, right, and from our owners, that we have to sort of look within as well. And I actually brought up at our last subgroup meeting, where are we on this strategic plan? And my initial thought was, well, maybe we'd fit under the effectiveness column, and maybe we need to see ourselves in here if we're going to take responsibility for making sure that we're being an effective commission. And then specifically your comments around policy governance, and are we going in a different direction, or are we sticking with that? I think that's also come up in a number of conversations. And I think, one of my thoughts for a commission goal for the upcoming year would be very much to go back to that, and to either, really commit to it, or go in some other direction, which I'm not suggesting. But I think everybody agrees that we probably need to clarify what that looks like, and, again, either double down on it or go in some other direction. But sort of our work as a commission around making sure we all understand and embrace that as our way of governing. So I think you very much hit on the key threads that have come up in our discussions around commission, and probably the work that's in front of us in the upcoming year.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Ezra?
Yeah, can you hear me? All right, my quick response to Tom Wilson's question about policy governance is I don't think we're going back to the drawing board or revisiting the question of whether policy governance is right or not. I agree with Grant that if anything, maybe we need to come to a place of redoubling or recommitting to it. But I would offer this viewpoint. Policy governance, I've come to really appreciate as this sort of elegant way to try to draw some bright lines in a muddy gray space of delineating executive and then, sort of policy board roles and purview and whatnot. And it does a really nice job. It's not perfect. It's never perfect. And so if anything, I think as we have these repeat conversations with Michael, we're trying to get even more into that gray stuff and really even better delineate what goes on one side and what goes on the other. And so we're working to better flesh out and implement policy governance than we even were before. That's how I think about it. So, I mean, I agree with what Grant said. We may need, we should keep coming back to it, keep reminding ourselves what does it mean, and what's the latest best practice around policy governance, and align how we're doing it with the best way, for this group to do it. But yeah, that's how I'd respond, Tom. I can see why you asked the question. I mean, just, we're going places that are definitely beyond the purview of how our initial charter was as a CED review, annual 360-degree in review. But I think we're going places that are really useful and helpful. And feel good about it. So, and it's great working with the couple other folks from the commission that I'm working with on the committee. And so, yeah, thanks everyone for your attention to it. We keep bringing back all the key pieces to the whole commission, because I think it's really important for all of us to be in on this stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ezra. Sarah, and then Brad.
Yeah, just because we're in a public meeting, I feel compelled to say that yes, we are noticing all of our meetings as a task force as open meetings with public notice. So anyone who is interested in joining, they are open meetings unless they are specifically related to employee performance, and then we move into closed session.
Okay, thank you. Brad? Brad, you're muted.
Sorry about that. For the work group meetings, you could possibly just note that there may be a quorum of the entire commission present for those work group meetings, and that would cover the potential for, others of us showing up to your work groups. But I appreciate getting an invitation to your meetings, and would look forward to participating when I'm able. I think it's been a real good discussion today. Having reviewed the strategic plan yesterday, I noted that in several areas, it probably does need to be updated, especially the status of the priorities and the implementing of the projects that are going on. Some of the project managers have changed because of retirements, and the status of the projects reflects work through 2020 and not what's going to be happening in 2021. So there is some work that needs to be done to bring the strategic plan up to date. I would look forward to reviewing the goals and the influencing factors as I think that some of them may have changed. And as I reviewed the strategic plan, I noted several areas where I think there are opportunities to make it a little more current than it currently is. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Ezra, is your hand still up, or did you raise it again? Okay.
My bad. I didn't.
Yeah, that's all right.
Like I should have.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
that's all right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing somebody. Grant?
Yeah, I just wanted to invite Michael. I know he's sort of letting us have this discussion, but I think one of the things that's important for me and that has really helped reinforce that we are on the right path is I don't want to speak for him, but I think it seems like there's a lot of agreement around some of the things that we've talked about today. So I just think it would be, I'd be interested in Michael sharing his kind of overall thoughts about some of these bigger picture parts of our discussion if he's willing.
Yeah, I think this is a really helpful and positive progression in the policy governance. I think the policy manual that was developed by the commission were words on a page. And what I'm really encouraged by that what the task committee has taken on is how do we operationalize the policy governance? And Commissioner Meyer touched on this as well. And a big part of that is in monitoring performance. And how does the commission want to monitor performance of the organization? And how do we report, and how do we shape the agendas of our commission meetings so it's just not a meeting of transactional decisions about approvals, but it's the commission receiving the information they need to feel good that the district is going in a direction, and with strategic planning that if they want to, this is a big ship we're running, and if they want to tweak the rudder on it to guide it and give staff direction on things we should be thinking about more, that we have those conversations and we start to build those into this planning effort, and it gives us time to think and bring forward ideas and proposals for you. So I'm really excited to work with this group, and it's almost evolving into instead of a CED review committee, almost like a governance committee. And I appreciate having colleagues on the commission that I can work directly with and having these discussions about how do we make the policy book real. And so I'm really encouraged.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So the way I look at it is the policy governance is kind of like our constitution that we set up. And the strategic plan becomes the statutes. And now we're working on the administrative rules is to close everything to fit everything together, like make everything work one-on-one. So anybody else have any comments? Okay. Seeing none, very good job. If you do feel like your committee members, if you do feel like you're getting overloaded or something, I think then we should have a discussion about how we can break off certain levels and have maybe a second group do one part and you guys do another part or something. I don't want to have you guys get overtaxed, and that we should all be giving our due share. And it seems like you're doing good work, but on the other hand, with everything else going on you have in your lives, it can make it more difficult. So if you ever feel that way, just let me know and we can bring it up for discussion. Okay, that takes us to 5A, the CED update. Michael?
Thank you, President Hovell. And I just wanted to check with the task force to make sure you have what you need in terms of direction from the commission before we move on. And I wanted to check. Good. See a thumbs up from Commissioner Eskridge. Since I'm facilitating this meeting, I don't want to drop the ball here. So, all right, good. All right. Whew. All right, I'm done. Okay, back to CED update. I have one thing. We had our first owner meeting of the year last week, and the focus of the meeting was on the owner-commission relationship. And we had three illustrious panel members, Commissioner Hovell, Commissioner Wilson, and Commissioner Clark, who I asked several questions to them about their views on the owner commissioner relationship and how that's evolving. That stemmed from the discussions the commission had last year around defining ownership versus being a customer community. And we had really good involvement, and I might tap Amanda on the shoulder in a minute to say where did those numbers come in, but I first wanted to just give you a sense of where I thought the meeting went, and then I'd like the three commissioners to give your insights on how you felt the meeting went. But I felt there was just this level of trust between the owners and the commission. And one thing I learned, and I didn't know this until the meeting last week, was that some of the communities were scared of the commission and or scared of coming to commission. I never felt that before or understood that, but that came out in some of the discussions. But that has been overcome by you as a commission being very open to the owner communities. I think a defining moment was when we looked at the connection charges and how we've opened up the process with our budget. I think that there were some ideas that came out in terms of how do we connect more with the various city councils and town boards and trustees around some of the work we're doing. One idea Commissioner Wilson had is what if we move some of our meetings to the local communities, which I thought was interesting. So it was an overall really a lot of insight shared, and but I'd like maybe for Commissioner Clark, Wilson, and Hovell to share your point of view. That's what I got out of it.
I'll go first. I didn't I do agree with Michael. I think the main thing we got was, I can't remember the person who made that comment, but he said that we have a level of trust with you. And I
Steve
think that
Fahlgren. It was Steve Fahlgren from DeForest.
Steve Fahlgren, right. And he said we have a level of trust. And I think that trust is increased with the new or the changed governance structure that we had from being appointed by the county executive, approved by the county board, to the new situation from several years ago now. And so I think they feel, I think there's this stronger connection now with the customer, with our owner communities to the commission than there was prior. And so I think that was probably the real good takeaway. And I think they understand, and quite frankly, the way I get it, I think they like the job we're doing, and that just because we're not hearing from them doesn't mean that they don't know what's going on, because I think we certainly saw that from the meeting, that they seem to understand our business, how we operate, and what's going on. So I'll be quiet now. Maybe Tom or Ken would like to react.
You want me to go? You want me to go first? Okay, so one of the things that I thought was interesting about the presentation is that it always seems like we heard three different perspectives to any of the questions that, of course, Michael fed us beforehand, but there was more of this like technical aspect of an answer, sort of a financial business aspect of an answer, and then my answer, which was nothing political, legal jargon, whatever, but it was more along the lines of relationships with communities, because that's kind of what I have. And I thought that was really helpful to the people that were on the call to see it. And I thought there were, if I remember, were there like 50 people that chimed in or came in. And again, one of the things I'll point out today that I mentioned is that if you look at our attendance, we've got Greg Freeze. Greg's probably not listening right now. See?
I am too, Tom. I just took me a minute to hit my mute button.
But, like Greg is our public, and which maybe is okay. Like Tom said, there's that level of trust, but I just thought that maybe there are some things that we could do as commission members, and we talked about this before, to try and get it maybe a little bit of level of interest, but maybe there's not. Like, for instance, these meetings, I'm the one that said it, so I'm just going to start sending it to like the Dane County Towns Association and the local governments that are around me, and saying, hey, here's a meeting, here's the agenda, there's a couple of things you might be interested in. And the last one actually had something from the city of Middleton. So, but interestingly enough, a prime example of what we were talking about, if there would have been an annexation or a sewer extension or any kind of project that involved the city of Middleton in the past, there would have been 2, 3, their city attorney, they would have been at the meeting or online here to make sure that it went right. There was nobody from the city of Middleton here, not one person, because the level of trust is, yeah, that's going to happen. There's not going to be a problem because we asked for it, staff has vetted it, and it makes sense. Whereas in previous years, especially when I represented several communities around here, I was always attending an MMSD meeting, and they were entertaining. And I knew the commissioners, so it was always fun to say hi to everybody. But it would be an attorney fest. There would be like 10 attorneys at these meetings. Tom, you may remember that. It was like a meeting of the bar. And it's not like that anymore, which I think says a lot about how we work and how we get along with our owners. And I think that might have resonated a little bit. But anyway, that was my impression of it. And I'm glad that I got asked to go.
Ken?
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment from both Toms here. The two takeaways I had from the meeting were, I think the owner communities, they feel the review process for new development and extensions and things like that is going much better. And the relationship with the district in my opinion, I felt that they felt that was headed in the right direction. The one comment I would make is I don't think we get enough feedback from our owner communities. And whatever we change or whatever we do in the future, I think we need to increase that level of feedback from that group. So they're not afraid to come to a meeting or give feedback and things like that. And we bridge that communication gap. And maybe we have a similar format meeting where we ask our owner communities questions and see what they have on their mind. But I think that we'd probably all, the district would get some better feedback, and the owner communities would feel that they're even better represented if we increase that communication gap.
Okay, thank you, Ken. I just want to add something else. I think what we heard was very consistent with what Michael and I heard back, was it September, October, Michael, when we had our meeting with the Executive Council of the Cities and Villages. Yeah, and so I think it was very consistent that they, so that, to me, that's good, that they like what we're doing. They've got that level of trust. And it was good because we had more than just that executive committees of the small cities and villages. They had Madison representation and others who were present. I think one of the things, Tom, I agree with your comment on all the attorneys. And back, my first experience with the commission was actually before I was ever on the commission, when I working for Fitchburg, and we needed to do a 2-acre adjustment to the boundary to allow a road to go through for the district boundary. Just 2 acres is all it was to connect the road from one subdivision to another. And you go in there and they're asking, they have these very formal process where they have to swear you in, they have to ask your background, how long you've been in your position, what your educational attainment and everything was. And then, that basically carried through until, I think when the whole statute kind of changed, I think it kind of changed part of that very formal process. And I don't know if they were ever misinterpreting it or what, but they had this very formal process for amendments to the district boundary that just sucked up a lot of time. And I think that whole judicial feeling kind of, kept people apart. And so we don't have that today. We have a much different process. So
I do want to put a plug in there for our attorney, Paul Kent. He helped us soften that process quite a bit.
Yeah, that was, I think that was probably more off-putting to anybody than anything else, is that type of process for amendments. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add? I don't see any hands. Okay, thank you, Michael. But mentioning Ken, that takes us to the regulatory and legal review.
Yeah, that's, can you hear me okay? I'm having a few headset problems, but okay, great. Well, that was a kind of a different sort of intro, so I'll try and keep this relatively brief today. This is the point in the commission schedule where I kind of review kind of what we've done in terms of legal services. And despite the pandemic and February being a short month, February was really quite busy. And it continued into March. We had a number of contract issues going on. It ranged from things like, how do we manage a potential design build contract and what can we do as a public entity? We had some lease issues on land rental that the district owns. We are starting to make some progress on developing standard form contracts. That's been a long-standing goal, and we're starting to begin that process. There continue to be some issues with that heavily congested corridor along University Avenue that I know Bruce and others have talked about, but there is railroad issues and road issues and other things, and we're working through that. And then there are a few follow-up things on the Ostera contract. On the regulatory side, we continue to monitor PFAS, and as I think I mentioned, there is a new disinfection guidance issued by the department that we're looking at, and still trying to bring final resolution to our arrangement with DNR on that. We've had on the HR side one unemployment insurance matter that we're working through. And there have been some general, open meetings questions. One of the more interesting questions we've had kind of in the general category is whether we need parental permission for use of art projects as part of a project Amanda was doing. And it was an interesting question. So appreciated the opportunity to be involved in that. Just one thing generally in the way of legal services, I mentioned this to Michael, and we're hoping to work forward on this, but Stafford recently hired a senior level employment and HR attorney. We've had background in that prior to this, but we felt a need to really strengthen our HR legal ability. And so we've hired somebody that comes to us with some nearly 20 plus years of experience, both in another law firm and in-house. And we're hoping that will provide additional expertise when we need it, which hopefully hasn't been, it hasn't been much, but when you need it, you need it. And we now have a very seasoned attorney to help us with that. So that's kind of the legal review. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Anybody have any questions? Tom's waving his hand. Everything's good?
No, I had a question.
Oh, you had a question. Okay.
Does the employment attorney they have labor experience too, Paul?
I believe she has some. Her name is Pam Plore, and we'll be doing some meet and greets with her and staff, coming up. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Nope. Okay, thank you, Paul.
You're muted.
I see that. I'm doing it by my hand thing, and I unclick it, then it moves back right on. Okay, future meeting schedule, that's in the packet. And we talked about a couple of things today that we'll probably see in the future. Operations report, Alan.
Good afternoon or good morning, commissioners. So get the screen shared here. You seeing that okay? You're muted, Mr. Commissioner Hubble.
Yeah, now I see it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're seeing the operations maintenance report? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we're talking the February report performance. Looking at the dashboard metrics, we've actually had really good performance so far this year, January and continuing on into February. Performance has been right in line or better than norms for this time of year, well below limits on everything. Phosphorus numbers are about a little less than half of what we're allowed under the new permit. Suspended solids is right down that middle line. And then the chloride numbers is the only thing we're really higher than we'd really like to be on this. But as you know, chlorides, there isn't really a whole lot we can do about that. That's kind of, I think, a function of we saw some melting in February. And so those numbers were elevated. We do get some road salt coming in with that. And we've made a lot of inroads as compared to where we were 5 years, 10 years ago. That's it's incredible the progress that's been made on that. But so that's, the numbers are what they are. So still with our limit criteria, but and we do expect to see those drop off. So any questions on the performance metrics? Okay. Moving on, resource recovery. The numbers are pretty much right in line. The struvite number, we're running right along, probably a little bit behind where we'd normally be this time of year, but we have noticed as we've built some history with the Ostara system, we do see a little bit of seasonality to our production. We do make a little bit more in the summertime and a little bit less in the wintertime. And so that's likely a function of how we do uptake into the microbiology and how that makes its way into the digestion process and on through that. That's what we believe it's attributable to. So it's not a major difference, but it's enough to see that we do see typically a production drop off as we get into the colder weather, and then that tends to increase in the summertime. And there really isn't a temperature relationship with chemical struvite formation per se. So we really have to trace it back to where are we getting that phosphorus from, and that's reliant on the biology that's in the treatment basin. So it's kind of interesting for if you're geeky about that. Maybe it's just the sidelight if you're not. Clean water, 2.2 billion gallons through February. That project that out, that would be put us up around 13, 14. So that would be continuing to trend below the last 2 years average. Part of that's reflective of wintertime tends to drop off more. And we haven't had our higher flow months to build into that yet. So I think we're going to be right in line with our flows for the year. With the last part of the liquid processing improvements coming up in the next 6 weeks or so, we're again going to be pretty vulnerable to a really high flow event. So I'm really personally hoping that the flows stay down a little bit until we get through that. And on that note, the UV system, we're on schedule to start that up. We're starting training on that next week. Finishing the startup checkup on that. And so we should be ready to go when the regulatory limit on that starts April 15th, or we fully expect to be ready to go. Any questions on the resource recovery dashboard? Okay, with that, I'm relinquish this back.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. And future agenda topics, we talked about that. Any other business? And adjournment.
I'll move we adjourn, Commissioner Wilson.
Motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by?
Second, Commissioner Clark.
Second by Commissioner Clark to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the week.
A wonderful thing. Stay
Thank
safe,
Take care.
everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.